to fulfill our mission as individuals and as members of an organization as instruments of promoting diplomacy, information and progress, and an institution which serve us as an incubator for new ideas and initiatives, even in the midst of an ideal situation brought by the pandemic. May you bless all our endeavors, be it for ourselves and most especially for Apcu, as we advance its interests, goals, and aspirations, most importantly, today's forum. Guide the speakers that they may share the most of their knowledge to their respective topics. May we also absorb the valuable knowledge, experiences, and put into practice what we may learn today, and all who will take part and are willing to make this a productive and insightful forum. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion and enlighten our minds in every word that we will hear. We ask you for wisdom and foresight for the awesome privilege to steward good outcome. Bless our discussions, plans, programs, and projects so that we may achieve our objectives. All the all these we ask to you, our dear Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. And now to give the welcoming remarks, we will call on Secretary Raul Ampino, Apcu Chairman.
Thank you, President Jeff, and good morning to everyone. Good morning to our speakers today. As I said, this has been a wonderful meeting that we have been doing for the past 5 occasions already, and I'm very, very happy of the programs being undertaken by Apcu. Last week, I had an occasion to attend and participate in the ASEAN-China Friendship Organization Zoom meeting. And I have outlined the programs of APCO, the things that we are doing here in the Philippines. We have congratulated the Lao Friendship Organization to be hosting the next China-ASEAN Friendship Organization meeting in Laos comes this month of February. Hopefully by then, we'll be able to have already more relaxed protocols being implemented in the region in regard to the problem we are now all facing brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm now having another meeting with the Regional Development Council of the Cordillera Administrative Region. We are discussing the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program, which was one of the hallmarks of President Duterte's program to help the rural areas. And I think APCO and also our friends from China may possibly help and participate in this noble objective of our government. We need more investors in the rural areas. We need more to have jobs and opportunities be given to the people in the rural areas. And this is the topic that we are now discussing right now. So I may not be able to join you in the whole program. From time to time, I'm going to sneak in. It depends upon the ongoing discussion we are having with the Regional Development Council here in the Cordillera Administrative Region. But I think President Jeff and all the other members of the board, with the former President Gabi around, and Vice Chair Sixto, can handle the situations well. So again, thank you so much to our speakers and also to our participants here. I welcome you all, and let's have a fruitful discussion again with the topics at hand. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you, Chairman Raul. And now to introduce our first speaker this morning, we will call on Congresswoman Catalina Pizarro, APCO Director for Ways and Means. Congresswoman, baby.
Wait. Hello, good morning. Hello, thank you. Do
Yeah,
you hear
we can hear
me?
you. We can hear you clearly.
Okay. Thank you, President Jeff, and a pleasant morning, everyone. Allow me to introduce the first speaker of today's forum. Our speaker for today is the most active and youngest person in charge of important think tank in China at present. Under his direction, RDCY has been on the list of the 150 top global think tanks by University of Pennsylvania for 3 consecutive years. He was able to visit nearly 100 countries, including South Pole, and conducted extensive research and field investigations, met with the presidents and prime minister in more than 30 countries. He was co-chairman of T20 in 2016 and currently the managing director of the Silk Road Think Tank Association, SRTA. He is an influential think tank scholar in China whose reports have been approved by Chinese policymakers for dozens of times. Besides, he is now the consultant expert for several Chinese government ministries, including the People's Bank of China, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Finance, and Ministry of Commerce, etc. In the year 2016, he was invited to be the one of the 10 speakers to participate in the symposium on philosophy and social sciences hosted by President Xi Jinping. He won the honor of 2014 Top 10 Figures of Chinese Think Tank, 2015 China Reform and Development Pioneers, 2016 Influential Figures of Chinese Think Tank, 2017 Chinese Famous Academic and Cultural Scholar, and so on. Today's speaker specializes in global governance, major power relations, green finance, and macroeconomics policies. He is also the Secretary General of Green Finance Association of China, Consultant Fellow at Counselor's Office of the State Council of China, and so on. He used to be the reporter of People's Daily, the most important newspaper in China from 2005 to 2013, and worked as op-eds editor and editorial writer at Global Times, one of the most best-selling newspaper under the People's Daily from 2010 to 2013, and won the China News Awards in 2011. He has become the head of RDCY since 2013. He has edited and independently written over 30 books, which are considered as best-selling of the year. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce to you our speaker for today, who will talk about conception, present, and future, Belt and Road initiatives in the Southeast Asia, a professor and the executive dean of Chongyang Institute for Financial Studies and the vice president of Silk Road School, Renmin University of China, Dr. Wang Wen. Thank
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Congresswoman. You give me the opportunity. Thank you so much. I'd like to introduce, share my view about the BRI to my Philippine friends. So actually, I have been Philippines twice. I love the country very much. The country, Philippines, are so beautiful. So I very enjoyed my experience in Philippines. So this time I'd like to use 20 minutes to introduce my views about the BRI, because as a congresswoman said that I'm focused on the BRI for many years. So actually, I briefly introduced my institute, the RTCY, Chongyang Institute for Financial Study, Lemmy University of China. We are the best think tanks for BRI study in China, and as you may know that in the past 7 years, we held over 100 of international conference and a large of the influence and publish over 30 BI books and share our views in nearly 100 countries and meet with over 50 president and prime minister. And also we investigate most of the country in the earth. And I have to share my evolutions of BRI in the past 7 years. The first is the BRI promoted the innovation of global governance model. So although we heard some voice of doubt by some congressmen, by some think tank, by some media in US, Japan, Europe, India, but we have to admit that BRI did not repeat the old model of hegemonizations and colonizations, but create a new load of for rising power of China. And the second is that China and the world are generally sharing the increasing dividends bought by the BRI financial trade, high-tech development innovation model. So we can see a growing number of the flagship projects appears, while potential of the BRI is still far from being entirely released. And the third point I want to share with you is that the BRI is increasingly rising the international image of the Chinese as well as a China soft power. While we know the anxiety about China's new rights law is spreading globally, we know a few media, they always criticize the rise of China, but we have to admit that China rise, we didn't bring out the disaster, bring out the war, bring out the financial crisis. We just bring out the construction, bring out the investment, bring out the trade. So this is the basic evaluation. So I have to share with you the very important information is that after the second BRI forum in last year, the BRI entered a stage 2.0. The stage 1.0 is that we make the global understanding. And the second period is that we want to push the construction of the BRI in depth, and we very much emphasizing the high quality development. And the three very important signal is from our party report. You know, in our party CPC, the party report is the most important official document in China. And in this report, we never talking about initiative, but instead of we just said international cooperation. So in indicating the determination of the patience of Chinese government to continually promote the construction of the BRI. And the second signal is that the BRI was written into the new constitutions of Chinese Communist Party in later of the 2017. It means that promoting the BRI is not only the China state will, but also the CPC parties will. So presenting its strategic importance and the implementation's capacity in the future. Third thing is that we very much emphasize the high quality development of BRI. So I have to share with you is that the COVID-19 pandemic, as Mr. Chair talking about, and Ms. Congresswoman talking about that, the COVID-19 pandemic reflects the importance of the BRI, the new value of the community of the human future, right? So we are a same community. The virus no border, right? And the second thing is the new development model of the connection. We know the interconnection become much more important because of the virus. We have to stay at home, but the digital interconnection become more and more important. We have to connect by the tech communication, by tech innovation. So the third thing is that post-pandemic period, we needed a new glues. And so I think that BRI can give the world the reglobalization's power. So, but problem is that what on earth the BRI did in the past 7 years, I share with you very briefly. First thing is that we China government pushed the domestic policy system in the past 7 years in central government level, in ministry level, and in local level. And we have a lot of we push a lot of strategic documents in the central government level. And the second thing is that in the ministry level, every ministry in China, we have every different characteristics policies led by different ministries. And the third is a local level. In every province, every city in China, we have a lot of different policy system. So if you want to cooperation with China, I think that you can check in the internet of the local of the ministry official website. So you can find a lot of official documents about BRI. That's a few list in NDRC, in a foreign ministry, in a local government, a lot. Every year, every different documents, right? I just briefly just passed. And that's a domestically and internationally that we push the international cooperation in five connections. One is policy coordination. Second is facility connectivity. Third is independent trade, and fourth is financial integration, and five is people and people bonds. That is policy connection, facility connection, or infrastructure connection, and trade connection, financial connection, and people connection. So in policy coordination, in policy connection, we China signed more 200 BRI cooperation documents with 138 countries and 30 international organizations. And also we push a lot of multilateral cooperation mechanism. And second is facility connectivity. We push the as you know, the railway between China and the BRI countries, especially in the pandemic. The railway become much more important than before. We export the masks and a lot of medical resources, and also in the past 7 years, we push the direct ally among China and the other BRI countries. From China City, we have more and more direct allies to to the other countries and bring more and more Chinese tourists to the other countries. And the facility connection include a lot of sea transportation agreements and also the digital Campbell international connections. That's I just listed the words in the PPT. That's a load and a real infrastructure quality. You can see that China is one of the best countries in the infrastructure in the world. And this is the internet. The internet coverage and the 4G infrastructures in the world. We can see that China is one of the best. And this is the railway fraction projects of the BRI. You can see a lot of flagship railway project China invested. And the third is trade connection. Trade connection. As we all know that in the past 7 years, the trade growth, the average trade growth in the world are very, very low. But the average trade growth among China and the BRI countries are very high, much higher than the international average level. So this is a very, very good things. And I have a lot of database just in the PPT. I can share the PPT with every audience. So the fourth is financial integration or financial connections. That is RMB internationalization. In the past 7 years, the RMB internationalization was very, very fast. Nowadays, the renminbi, RMB is now the second financing currency and the fifth transaction currency and the sixth foreign exchange transactions currency in the world. So, and also China push more and more bank invest in the world. And this is the main financing platforms of the BRI, such as AIIB, the BRICS Nuclear Developer Bank, the China Euro-Asia Economic Cooperation Fund, the China CEEC Investment Cooperation Fund, and China Africa Fund, China ASEAN Infrastructure Development Fund, and Silk Road Fund, AIIB, as I said, and the China Insurance Investment Fund. A lot of more the fund pool more than 600 billion US dollars. And also the last is people and people connections. So we push the constructing overseas the Chinese Cultural Center, and we have more and more international students. Also, as Miss Congresswoman said, that I'm the vice president of the Silk Road School, Renmin University of China. As you know, the Renmin University of China are the best university in China. And the Silk Road School, we focus on the international programs, and I'm in charge of the admission programs. So if in Philippines you have those students who want to study in China, you can apply, and we provide a very high scholarship to you and have the master degree program. So also we have the more and more visa-free countries cooperation, and also we have the more and more tourists abroad. And every year China has 150 million international tourists, and we consume, we produce a huge consumption, and we buy huge productions in the world, and as well as a medicine international basis, and also the emerging food aims. And additionally, I have to introduce another very important cooperation, that is industrial cooperations. We construct 120 industrial zones in foreign countries. A lot of industrial zones in industrial parks in ASEAN. So that's the first thing I want to share with you. That is what did BRI do in the past 7 years. But second thing I want to share with you is BRI is prospect and the two-step strategy. The first step, so I have to share with you is that in the past 7 years, that we pushed the global understanding of the BRI, and now we are in the second stage. That is, we want to push the higher quality development period, and as we all know, including my Philippine friends, 40 years ago, China was very, very, very poor, and but 40 years ago, Mr. Deng Xiaoping pushed the reform and the opening up policy. And then 40 years passed, China became the second largest economy in the world. And in maximum in 7 years, China will transcend the United States and become the first largest economy in the world. Why? Because we push the country's development stage by stage. And I think that BRI copied the reform and opening up policy. So we pushed the first stage, and then we pushed the second stage. And the second stage was very longer than first stage. So I think that, but we know we have a lot of challenges of the BRI. So the second point I want to share with you is that intellectual three challenges. First challenge is that we know the intellectual challenges. China is a long and older civilization, but is a very young and modern country. We have to push. We have to learn from the world. We have to learn how to push the international exchange, how to push international communication. So in that time, we should need learn from Philippines, and because Philippines, a lot of Philippine people, you can speak English very well, but in China, very, very few Chinese people can speak English. And second is the financial challenges. And third is the domestic challenges. So we know in China, maintain a stable political, economic, social, and environment are becoming more and more difficult than before. So final point I want to share with you is that we should push the high quality. We should keep the patient and the persistent to push the high quality construction. So why I talk about this is my final point. That is because we look at reform and opening up policy 40 years ago began. We all know this is a huge and long-term policies. If we look at in the later of the 1980 or the early of the 1990, when the reform and opening up policy, just only maybe 10 years or 15 years, we don't know. We didn't know what on earth the reform and opening up policy was, right? In the 1990s, in 1980s. But 40 years passed, we certainly found how great the reform and opening up policy was. So in China, most of the Chinese people, we admire Mr. Deng Xiaoping because he pushed the reform and opening up policy and changed totally China. So nowadays, under the President Xi Jinping pushed the BRI initiative. We describe the BRI as the reform and opening up policy 2.0. So this is a global initiative. So I think that I suggest my Philippine friends that don't trust totally about Western media, because we know a lot of Western media every day they criticize China, criticize the BRI, just like in the past 40 years they criticize China's reform and opening up policy, right? But after 40 years, China achieved great progress. I think give BRI 20 or 30 years. Additionally, I think BRI can produce much more progress and much more achievements to the world, including Philippines. So finally, I very much thank my Philippine friends give me the opportunity. I love Philippines very, very much. I like the Manila city. I like the beach of the Philippines, the so beautiful sea views. So I hope that in Philippines and China relationship in become much more much better than before. And I wish you healthy in the pandemic. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wang.
Thank
Next, we
you.
would like to introduce our second speaker for this morning. And now we will call on Professor Gabriel Lopez, former president of Apcu.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Aaron Jed Rabena, a research fellow with the Asia Pacific Pathways to Progress, a Manila-based foreign policy think tank. He is also a consultant at Cocus Incorporated, a business and government relations consulting firm. And is also a member of the Philippine Council for Foreign Relations. Previously, he served as senior lecturer at UP Asian Center, and he was a visiting fellow at the China Institute of International Studies and China Foreign Affairs University. He is a Pacific Forum Young Leader, an alumnus of East-West Center and the U.S. State Department International Visitor Leadership Program. He obtained his PhD in International Relations from Shandong University in China. His professional areas of interest and publications are on strategic studies, East Asian geopolitics and institutional politics, political risk, and Chinese politics and foreign policy. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Rabena.
Thank you very much, Professor Lopez, sir. Sir, am I clear? Can you see my slide?
Yes, it's
Okay.
clear. Yes.
Okay. So firstly, Chairman Lambino, if you're still there, sir, President Jeffrey Nang, Congresswoman Pizarro, Professor Wang Wen, ladies and gentlemen, a very pleasant morning to you all. I'd like to thank also Professor Jeffrey Nang for inviting me to speak before Apcu. It is my great honor and privilege. And also to be alongside Mr. Wang Wen. Actually, I'm quite familiar with him because I've read some of his works on the Belt and Road. So for this morning, I was asked to talk about China's Belt and Road Initiative in the Philippines. What are the opportunities and challenges facing it? Okay. So I would start by first, well, Professor Wang already mentioned this, but I'll just follow through. First, what is China's Belt and Road Initiative? How do we nuance it? And second, what is the state of China's BRI efforts in the Philippines? And third, what are the challenges facing the BRI in the Philippines? And lastly would be my concluding remarks and some recommendations. Okay, so firstly, the Belt and Road Initiative. It spans from, it's multi-continental, and it was actually first announced by President Xi, when he made a state visit to Indonesia and Kazakhstan in 2013. It was in Indonesia where he discussed the Maritime Silk Road, and in Kazakhstan, the Silk Road Economic Belt. So the Belt and Road Initiative, are in Chinese, 一带一路. It's also called One Belt, One Road, also synonymous with the New Silk Road. It actually has two parts: the Silk Road Economic Belt, which is the land-based route, and the Maritime Silk Road, the waterborne route. Looks like this. So obviously, it was drawn from China's ancient history, from the ancient Silk Road. So you can see the route here all the way from mainland China to Europe and parts of Africa. That's the ancient Silk Road, now called the Silk Road Economic Belt. And the route of the Maritime Silk Road basically is premised on Zhenghe's route during the Ming Dynasty. So this is now what China calls the Maritime Silk Road. And the BRI actually has 6 major corridors. So you have the Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar Economic Corridor, CPEC, China, Pakistan, China, Central Asia, New Eurasian Land Bridge, and China, Mongolia, Russia Economic Corridor. So this is just to give you some background there. And as Professor Wang mentioned, the BRI has basically is comprised of five parts, or it has 5 pillars of cooperation. And so this is where I disagree with most, some analysts in the West and Western media, when they say that the BRI is only about physical infrastructure, hard infrastructure. No, because China has what it calls, Wutong, 5 connectivities. So it's, as Professor Wang Wen said, policy coordination. You have to sign agreements. You have to coordinate, development policies. Second, infrastructure. Third, trade and investment. Fourth, financial integration. And 5, people-to-people ties, cultural exchanges. So I would say that the BRI, excuse me, is a regional integration project because it aims to, advance cooperation in terms of both hard and soft infrastructure. Hard infrastructure, you already know them: ports, airports, railways, roads, bridges. And soft infrastructure, people-to-people, economic, financial cooperation, telecommunications. So actually every year, China issues what it calls, the Belt and Road Big Data Report. So just to give you an idea how China reports about it, about their accomplishments. So you see here, signing of cooperation agreements is an achievement. They report that. That's policy coordination. The establishment of direct air routes with countries. That's also part of people-to-people. The freight trains that have been served, that have been put to service, that's part of trade and investment. Chinese enterprises, investment, that's infrastructure and trade and investment. The BRI setting up enterprises, or accommodating the setting up of enterprises in China. So it's two-way. It's not just China going out, but it's also China receiving investments from partner countries. And also overseas economic and trade cooperation established by China. That's also part of trade and infrastructure. And here, so bilateral currency swap deals, financial integration, sister city relations, that's also part. Tourist trips, if you go to China, that's part of the Belt and Road Initiative. You become part. The establishment or creation of visa-free policies. Foreign students going into China, that's part of people-to-people. So here you have to put into context China's BRI in China's foreign policy framework. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so here you see China's foreign policy strategy, community of shared future, striving for achievements, new type of international relations, Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics, and major country diplomacy. So what are these? Our community of shared future basically means international collectiveness, inclusiveness, co-prosperity, major country diplomacy with Chinese characteristics, greater international responsibility. China is now a big power, therefore China should do more. New model of international relations, meaning mutual respect, fairness, win-win. Silk Road spirit, it's about peace and cooperation, openness, inclusiveness, mutual learning, mutual benefit. By the way, the community of shared future for mankind is actually similar to President Hu Jintao's harmonious world. So this is how China um, advances continuity in its foreign policy. And as for President Xi, he has what he calls, striving for achievements, and the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era, meaning a more internationally active, a more globally engaged China. So just to give you a contrast, during the time of Deng Xiaoping, the foreign policy mantra was basically hide and bide, where China has to be low-key on international affairs as it strengthens itself, of course, from within. But now under President Xi, as China is now the world's second largest economy, China has to do more. And yeah, with great power comes great responsibility. So what are the internal factors that contributed to China's pursuit of the BRI? I guess there are 5. To develop China's less developed regions, to diversify supply chains, to promote China's companies and industries, to address overcapacity issues, and to deepen linkages with overseas markets. And the BRI is very important to the Communist Party of China because it's what it was enshrined into the party constitution, particularly in the 19th Party Congress. So this means that it's very significant to China as a national policy. And when you enshrine something into the constitution, that means it's for the long term. It means it's a priority, long-term priority for the Chinese political leadership. And also that means even if President Xi is no longer in power, it will continue. So the BRI is an open regime because when the BRI was first announced, there was no digital Silk Road, but now there's digital Silk Road. It's the promotion basically of fiber optic cables, cable systems, 5G technology, cloud data, shaping of cyberspace governance. It's led by companies like Huawei, ZTE, China Mobile, China Telecom. And there's also what China calls the Space Silk Road. So this means basically that the Belt and Road continuously evolves. It's an open regime. China keeps on adding new initiatives to the BRI, new mechanisms. So this one is for satellites for navigation, timing services. China provides these services to other countries, particularly, especially developing countries. And it's not just the government or the state that's involved in the BRI. It's also actually China's private sector, because from 2014 to 2016, companies like TCL and Yutong mentioned the Belt and Road in their annual reports, and also 86 other companies. And among the top 50 involved are Chinese, 42% are private, 56% SOEs, 2% joint ventures. And the BRI Big Data Report of 2017 also highlighted that the participation of private Chinese companies enhances the reputation and influence of Chinese brands and products. So if there is an internal factor to the BRI, I believe there's also an external factor. And it is the US pivot to Asia in 2011. Because China is very paranoid about the US security presence around their periphery, their neighborhood. You would see here China is surrounded by security partners and allies. So China is paranoid because they think that, the US is doing to them what they did to the Soviet Union. They're being contained, and China doesn't want that. So you see here how vulnerable China's supply chain is. This is where the US can impose a blockade on China's supply chain or supply route. So that's what you call Malacca dilemma. They call it also in Chinese. And it's basically the blockade by the US of Chinese supply lines. And it's important to note that China is the most dependent country on the South China Sea for commerce. According to CSIS in 2016, over 60% of China's maritime trade, 40% of total trade, passed through the South China Sea, and almost 80% of total oil imports pass through the Malacca Strait. So that's a vulnerability for China. So you have to create new supply access routes. And you do that by partnering with countries. You create ports in various countries, you diversify access routes, so you're not just dependent on the Malacca Strait. So some would say it's the string of pearls, but China calls it the Maritime Silk Road. So when the Obama administration declared the pivot, they said that they will put 60% of their Navy and Air Force assets to the Pacific. So what did China want with the BRI? China wants to increase mutual economic and social interdependence, because why would you go to war? Why would you go, sorry for the typo, why would you go to war with a country with whom you have so much at stake? You would rather not, right? And why would you support military actions against a country that is economically important to you? You would not support that. So in this sense, with the BRI, you increase the cost of conflict, because if you increase the cost of conflict, people or countries think twice of disrupting the relationship. So in fact, it is expected that by 2025, BRI trade flows would reach 2.5 trillion, with the end goal that by 2050, BRI countries should already comprise around 80% of world GDP. And so if you're not part of this initiative, you will be economically irrelevant. But of course, there is a factor that we have to consider here with the emergence of COVID-19. Things may change. And so in the Philippines, what is happening with the BRI? When the BRI was announced, many in the Philippines thought that the Philippines was being excluded, because it was during the time when the Philippines did not have good political relationship with China. It was under President Aquino. So some maps were excluding the Philippines. But to dispel doubts, President Duterte has already attended the Belt and Road Forum twice, 2017 and 2019. So this is enough to say that the Philippines is really, part of the Belt and Road Initiative. In addition, we have signed an MOU with China on the BRI. So China wants policy coordination because China wants to make bilateral policies aligned, make them complementary with each other. Because if you do that, when you coordinate policies, it means you coordinate the future trajectory of the bilateral relations. And this is also the other relevant agreement signed in terms of policy coordination: 6-year development program for trade and economic cooperation, 10-year infrastructure cooperation program, investment priorities plan, and I already mentioned that. So area of cooperation number 2, infrastructure. Last year, the Chinese embassy actually came up with a primer, and these are the industries that they covered as part of the BRI: transportation, agriculture, power, water resources, ICT, telecommunications. And the Chinese embassy identified these specific projects as BRI projects: the bridges in Pasig, the Chico River Pump irrigation project, which is now ongoing, the Kaliwa Dam, the Safe Philippines surveillance project, Manila Bicol Railway, and Subic-Clark Railway. And this one is touted to be the crown jewel of China's Belt and Road Initiative in the Philippines. It's called the New Manila Bay, City of Pearl. I think the architect that want to do this project is based in Hong Kong. But I'm just not sure as to the latest, because I think Mayor Isko, I think initially wanted it to be postponed. So it remains to be seen if this project will still push through. So number 3, trade and investment. So if you go to the Belt and Road portal, this is basically where you will see how China reports on the Belt and Road Initiative, what they've done. So that includes trade, investment. Here on the left, you can see cooperation agreements. So I hope it's clear to you now how China visualizes the BRI. It's all encompassing. It includes everything, except POGOs, of course. That's not part of the BRI. So with China, what we've seen is that a surge in investment and trade, but of course there's still a lot of deficit. And Chinese loans and grants, after, and all of this actually would tell you that after President Duterte took office, everything drastically rose. And approved investments from China in 2018, they were our largest source of investments, 28% of total. And many went to real estate. I guess that's POGO, but take that away, it's still big, because in terms of manufacturing, China's also invested a lot, and in other industries as well, witnessed a market increase. So under President Duterte, China became the Philippines' largest trade partner, largest investor in 2018, and second largest tourist market, 2019. So for this, the Chinese embassy identified these projects as BRI projects. The China Telecom, we all know that. There's a lot of issue associated with that. Hubei Iron and Steel Company, Sinuk investment of LNG projects in Batangas, Chinese Industrial Park, I believe this is a smart city in Clark, Philippine participation in China International Import Expo, CIIE. So again, it's two-way. China wanting to receive more from BRI partner countries. It's not just China going out. So here, because I mentioned the private sector, Chinese private sector a while ago, I would also include this because they also promote, the Chinese brand. So these Chinese brands became more popular in the Philippines. Huawei, Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo. And likewise, I'd say this is part of trade or investment facilitation. So WeChat Pay, agreeing with the Asia United Bank. So now you see when you go to malls, you can see you can pay using WeChat Pay. And area of cooperation number 4, financial coordination and integration. So we have seen this. Chinese and renminbi was included as part of central bank's international reserves. Panda bond, we also issued Panda bonds, so that means we can borrow more from China. The peso yuan spot market trading facility. So this basically lessens the transaction costs for both countries. And that's good for entrepreneurs, investors. And air cooperation number 5, people-to-people links, connectivity. China is already our second largest tourist market. So China also includes this to be part of the people-to-people ties. They've increased the available scholarships for Filipinos, so now more than 50. And China, it is reported that China will set up a cultural center in the Philippines. So so in addition to the Confucius Institute, it seems that there will be a new cultural center. So I already mentioned this. China, in fact, our Ambassador Chito, believes that China will be our number 1 tourist market, perhaps after COVID. And we also issued to accommodate more more Chinese tourists visa upon arrival. And we also enhanced media cooperation with China. And there's also the Belt and Road News Alliance, of which the Philippines is a member. Yeah, so and they also, you can also see here a MOA signing between PCOO and the China Central Television. So it's really all encompassing the Belt and Road, industries, media, everything, and employment. China wants to, accept 100,000 Filipino teachers. China has pledged on doing that, and the 51 Talk. Um, it's an online learning platform. I think during this pandemic, because many people were laid off, so many of them went to teach here in this platform. So thousands of them. So this is also part of the people-to-people aspect of the Belt and Road. China also makes use of its think tanks, like Professor Wang Wen. So that's why he's doing what he's doing. That's also part of the Belt and Road Initiative, the think tank network, Silk Road think tank network. And we also have the proliferation of BRI-related business organizations, because they are for the promotion of bilateral economic cooperation. So that really falls within the parameters, within the scope of the BRI. So the challenges, we go now to the challenges. Essentially, the concerns from the Philippine side are, that these deals are debt trap, these are economic inducements, and that China is invading the Philippines. So there's politics, whether we like it or not. There's politics into the picture, and there's also this international resistance on the BRI. For example, the U.S. Disagreeing with China's Belt and Road Initiative, even warning countries like the Philippines of security risks when you deal with companies like Huawei. So for me, the Philippine perceptions of Chinese investments and projects, you can see it in like 4 dimensions. In terms of political and security, projects that got securitized or politicized would be, the Fuga Island, because they're saying that China would control this, things like that. And the National Grid Corporation, they say that China can sabotage this, and therefore, to the detriment of Philippine energy security. And Safe Philippines, they say that this will be used for surveillance, and China can have access to it, things like that. Environmental, the Kaliwa Dam, they say that it will like inundate, or it's not environmentally sustainable because it will displace minorities. Economic, they say that Chinese loans, they're onerous, high interest rates, and China mostly uses Chinese laborers in infrastructure projects, which is actually not true in many cases. They also say economically in economic dimension that China is all pledges and promises. There are many delays. Actually, this is also not true, because some projects are already moving, like the bridges, like the Kaliwa Dam, like the Chico River. These are all projects that are on the move. So socially, some Chinese tourists misbehave when they are here. So all these figure into Philippine perceptions of China's efforts here in the Philippines. So in conclusion, I think if we will do a SWOT analysis of the BRI in the Philippines, so I would think that because of past failed projects, like during the time of President Arroyo, NBNZTEL, North Rail project, because of domestic politics, that is, I guess we can say, a weakness or a threat to the BRI. But the Philippine government's ambition natin 2040, build, these are opportunities where the BRI can come in. The South China Sea, West Philippine Sea disputes remains a threat, and this is the reason why China is perceived as a security threat. It is because of this. And the death trap narrative that is reported by mainstream media, that's also a threat. It impacts perceptions of the BRI. And the same is true for media portrayal of the BRI as a geopolitical strategy or hegemonic agenda. That's a potential weakness and threat. President Duterte's independent foreign policy. He doesn't just want to engage Japan, US, Australia, Europe. He wants to diversify. He wants to engage Russia, China. So this is a strength. And compared with President Arroyo, President Duterte right now remains to be very, very popular. 91% of of Filipino people love him. So that's in contrast to the time of President Arroyo. So I think these are the variables that we have to consider in taking into account the BRI's impact in the Philippines. There is an external factor, that's the South China Sea disputes. Internal factors, Philippine domestic politics, like how's China's image in the Philippines? Pogos, for example, it creates a negative impression. Misbehaving tourists, Shanghai, the copycat goods, it creates a very, very negative impression on Filipinos when they see copycat goods or goods that are not of good quality. They make fun of it, like made in China, something like that. And President Duterte's statements of China. Sometimes President Duterte overdoes, he sometimes he overplays his his hand, when he says a lot of statements about China. It's good to say, to thank China, but if you overdo it, it's not good to some people. And if you are defeatist, it's also not good to your domestic audience. So I think that for Chinese companies operating here in the Philippines, make sure that you use local labor, expertise, materials, and publicize them. And second, projects need to be transparent, be of high quality. If Filipinos see that the projects are high quality, then this can dispel doubts about Chinese projects. Third, stakeholder engagement. Companies need to immerse with the locals, conduct outreach programs, and publicize them so that the public is aware. And fourth, there has to be a proper management of the disputes in the South China Sea and the West Philippine Sea, because as I mentioned, it also creates negative impressions. And yeah, so I would end there. Thank you very much. 谢谢.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rabena. And now we will go to the open forum. Unfortunately, Dr. Wang Wen has an emergency meeting to attend. So he has asked his colleague, Dr. Cui Zhenhai, to be in the open forum and answer our questions this morning. From our Apcu members and officers, we have a series of questions we would like to ask our two distinguished professors. The first question is, it has been highlighted in the Western press that the seaport and the airport financed by China in Sri Lanka has turned into a debt burden for Sri Lanka. The question is addressed to first to Dr. Chui is, how can we prevent Philippine projects financed by China under the Belt and Road Initiative from becoming white elephants in the first place? Dr. Chui. Dr. Chui. I think we have some technical problems. Dr. Rabena, would you like to answer the same question?
Okay, Sir Jeff. So I think in things like debt traps, it takes two to tango. Um, Compared with Sri Lanka, sir, I think our economic managers have affirmed that, well, we are in a much better credit rating standing. I believe we have a healthier financial portfolio, and we can pay for our debts, and agreeing on things like on commercial deals is really two-way. So, and we shouldn't agree if we think that the deal is not good. Um, we should try to renegotiate. If there's a deal that we don't like, we can renegotiate. So, and it's I think the as regards Sri Lanka, sir, I think it's not just all on China. Um, if it assuming but not conceding that the deal is onerous, so why did the Sri Lankan government agree to such? So in our case, so far I think the reason why some deals are moving slow is because our economic managers are being circumspect in reviewing them, because they don't want a repeat of the NBNGTE and North Rail. So they're also being careful. So some projects are still under negotiation. Some projects like the Kaliwa Dam, Chico River are already moving. So so we have to be smart, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ravena. Dr. Choi, are you there? Dr. Choi, can you hear me? I think we have some technical difficulty from Beijing. Next question addressed to Dr. Ravena. How can the Philippines leverage reform and the president's pivot to China to gain more from the PRI?
Actually, sir, I believe right now we are already getting a lot from China. Um, from 2016 to last year, sir, I believe China has pledged more than, I think maybe more than 30 billion already of loans and investments. So I think the burden now for China is to really uh, deliver on these promises, on these pledges, because the public now, they're very suspicious. They're very impatient now as to what's happening with all these pledges. Although I would say, sir, that these pledges are not exclusive to China. The mismatch between pledges and actualized investments, because other countries also pledge big, but the actual investments, at the end of that year is also um, not parallel to to what they pledged. So yeah, so it's not the same, sir.
Okay, Dr. Choi, can you hear us? Dr. Choi? Okay. He seems to be unavailable. Um, Another question is, would you know how are the projects evaluated by China, and are all projects initiated by recipient countries?
So I think again it's it's two-way. Both sides review the project. I'm just not privy as to the exact processor, but I think because the NEDA, what the NEDA does is, they review all these things. Um, so it's a two-way. It's a two-way process. But in relation to that, so I think China, for example, if they extend soft loans, um, they have the prerogative to bring in some of their workers, because it's a soft loan. It's not exclusive to China, but even other foreign countries do that as well, sir.
Okay. Thank you. There's a question here about Chinese factories are selling very cheap products directly to online shops like Shopee and Lazada. That affects local businesses, no, and even importers. Would you like to comment, Dr. Ravena?
Right, sir. I guess this is in a way like a cross-border what do you call this, e-commerce, yeah, something like that. I guess, sir, if the volume of that transaction is so much, perhaps that can be registered as part of the bilateral countries trade and economic relations. But maybe if these are counterfeit, substandard products, then definitely that would create problems when they reach the Philippines. Again, so for us to have an idea what constitutes BRI projects and whatnot, we can go to the Belt and Road portal. That's the official. We can go to the Belt and Road portal, and we can have a look at the Belt and Road Big Data Report. That's how China sees the BRI. I think he's there, sir, Mr. Professor.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear us, Dr. Choi?
Yes. Sorry, I have some mistake about the system. Yes.
Okay.
Could you hear me now?
Yes, we can
Could you
hear
hear me
you
now?
now. Good.
Yes, this is my pleasure. Yeah.
Okay. We just have some questions for you.
Yes. Yes. I think I can answer the first questions. I just hear about diet. Yes, the diet I think is a general the general problem in the BRI because based on the local the detailed situations and project the progress. But I think we are to hope about the project to be finished on time, and we are encouraged the financial cooperations, the financial cooperations, and based on our government to help them to reduce about the diet, and based on the just like the professor asked to me about based on the negotiations. I think this is a good way. Based on the long term about the histories, because not only about the BRI and another the plans in the Africa and in the other countries based on the diet, you must be to analyze the different situations to find out the problem. What's the real reasons to be a diet to impact about the progress. So I think our government will help us to I think to provide some solutions for the diet. So the first questions. The second, what are the second questions? Sorry.
How can the Philippines leverage existing reforms and the president's pivot to China to gain more from the Belt Road Initiative?
Sorry, I beg your pardon, please.
How can the Philippines gain more from the Belt and Road initiatives of China? What do you think can the Philippine government and the Philippine people do in order to gain more from China's Belt and Road initiatives?
Oh, yes. so actually, I think about with the improved the relations of China and the Philippines, the inclusions of the plans, the accord on the achieved sound macroeconomic policies and accelerate infrastructure development. It's under BRIs that is in line with the government's build program embodied in the Philippines Development Plan 2017-2022. Approvals to be strategic timing and importance. The Philippines is off to a good start in the envisioning the environment need for the success for coming infrastructure projects in the country. I think we are is based on the security and our two countries the sovereignty, and I think this is the piece for the South China Sea. That's from China's government. We need to trust between the two countries for long term, and we are based on the spirit of the growing for the whole world. So this is a BRI's the key point for the whole strategy. That's all.
Okay.
Yes.
We have another question here that Chinese factories are selling very cheap products directly to online shops like Shopee and Lazada. Can you give us your comment?
Oh yes. I think this is the online business is very popular in China. Like Alibaba, like and Meituan, the different the website is provided these wholesales products for the details. Is provided the multiple products and with the low price. I think this is good way to improve the locals. I think the useful for the home products and everyday products. So in other hand, I think we are open. At the same time, we are open the Chinese market for the Philippines products into China. You know, this is a good way to exchange the market, exchange the products, and improve import and export the products and in the long term. But I believe we are provided the high quality, low priced products is have a competitive advantage at this time because the Chinese is based on the hold and hold industries, the lines in the world. But I think we can to negotiate with the locals, the commercials associations to negotiate about focus the details, the products, the different products, how to make a good the price for the local market. And I think is we do not want to replace about the local market from the China's the products, relative products. So I believe we are to be a long term is trading the corporations for the long term for the histories. We believe we trust about we need Philippines the local products. We need Philippines the different special cultures in China. We are enjoying it like such as Philippines goods, food, and the different the products. So we do not reduce about the import from the Philippines. We are increase the import the products from the Philippines. I think the good way is we need to negotiate together for the what's the best price for the local market. That's a good way.
Okay, thank you. There has been some local objections. For example, regarding the design of the Binondo Intramuros Bridge, which was a grant by the Chinese government under the Belt Road Initiative. Would you know how these projects are evaluated by China? And are all these projects initiated by recipient countries such as the Philippines?
Yes, yes. I think you will meet some of the. This is maybe is a good question. I think is infrastructure is one of the keys area of cooperation. China, I think, checks a great importance to the Philippines build plan. The Philippines and China have agreed to cooperate on infrastructure for the next 10 years to boost the economic development and improve their investment environment. Under infrastructure cooperation program, Philippines and China will identify the cooperation area and projects based on their demands and the economic situations and based on the strategic merits, growth potential, and the driving effect. Key area of China and the Philippines infrastructure cooperation are transportation, agriculture, irrigation, fish ports, power, water resource management, information and communication technology, and telecommunications. A government-to-government cooperation project funded by the China's grant of soft loans in Philippines has gradually started. The two drugs, the rehab centers in the Mindan Loma have been complete and turned over ahead of the schedule. The two bridges over the Pasing River in the Milan and the Chico River, the pump irrigations project have started construction. The Kaliwa Dam, the Safe Philippines Manila's backhaul railway, Sabic Clark railway, and 5 days over Pasing River projects are all the in state process. So I think we are the trust each others and for the infrastructure, the projects. So we need to balance what's the Philippines the wants the best the requirement for the local economic. So we are paying attention to about the Philippines, the government and the local, the people's, the requirement and their demand for the future, the economic development. So I think we are based on the locals policies and the locals the strategies, economic strategies for the future. We do not care for about the short term. We just look forward for the long term, the strategies, long term trust, the long term cooperation, and we are have a long term win-win, and we are have some peaceful and growing faster and flourish in the two countries. Is our government core the strategy between China and the Philippines.
Okay, we have a question here. During the Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, East Asia Growth Area meeting, China offered a joint venture production facilities financing scheme wherein the commodities are destined to be exported to China. May we know if this facility is still open?
I think this is. I beg your pardon?
The facilities wherein China will provide facilities financing scheme for commodities destined for export to China.
Oh yes, I think is the Chinese will be balanced about the import export the policies. We do not only need about the locals the resource. We need to provide to establish the long-term cooperation, the strategies, and to we will based on we are make decisions, design some of the strategies, policies is based on the different countries, the long-term, the economic development strategies, local policies, local strategies. So we are needed to negotiation about what's the best choice for the different countries. We do not only based on the only Chinese the government policies, and for the BRI for the different countries, the financial service. You know, we want to provide the sustainable financial the support plans for the long-term strategies, like such as infrastructure development project, and about another projects for the locals economic development.
Okay, another question. How do you think can the Philippines benefit from this Belt Road Initiative with regards to health and education?
Okay, so I think I will find some good answers. I think is the Philippines is the BRI provide a new platform and new opportunities for the fostering the closer tie between the different countries, so with the country, with China, with different countries. The BRI's cooperation has strengthened economic ties and the people-to-people exchange between the nations. Hence, and bindings them closer together with the sharing interests. This will naturally build extensive the concerns, enhance the cooperations, and ultimately promote development. The BRI is a new path of the state-to-state relations based on the dialogues rather than confrontations, partnership rather than the alliance, and on mutual learning and enrichment. It supports the multilateral and the trading system, and embraced more open, inclusive, and balanced economic globalization, whose the benefit can be shared by all. The BRI is an important platform for building a community with a shared future for mankind, and keep a new type of relations. The second, I think, is the reaping the benefits of the BRI. Since it's a personal, I think in the 2013, the BRI has the create the economic opportunities and boost the common development among a number of the countries. New progress were made in jointly pursuing BRI in the 2018 with the strength in the infrastructure and the closer ties in trade and investment. The following highlight of the progress made under this initiative, I think, is the policies coordinations. The international influence of the BRIs has kept increasing since 2013, and in 2018 along over 60 nations. Kazakhstan and South Africa joined the initiative. My countries have the regional have the activities devoted the BRI with their own the development programs, such as the EU's Juncker investment plan. Then the Russia-led European economic union, Mongolia's prior road, and Kazakhstan's nearly stones. I think that China has so far assigned the 171 cooperation documents on the BRI with more than 150 countries and international organizations. So the BRI is well aligned about with the UN 2030's agenda for the sustainable development and formers a synergy of the policies to promote the global development. So I think the BRI's the countries will have to gain about from China is about some excellent technologies and some the financial support and some the policies. We are we are provided the very big, huge, the market for the BRI, the countries. We need their BRI, the products to import to China, because we are grows faster, fasterly. And we, at the same time, we needed some different countries, different products to increase our economic to development. At the same time, we want to help the BRI, the different countries grossly together and for the future, and not only independent development of the Chinese, the local market. We are need to promote the whole BRI countries, the market. So we are design the strategies for the BRI is about the new strategies, I think, based on the whole the BRI countries market, not only about the Chinese market. We are take care of the local different BRI countries, the local market, how to go ahead, how to flourish, to be flourishing, you know. We need to design based on the different the countries, the local strategy, local situation, local economic, and the local people's wants. So we are to be discussed what's the best way to help each other and go ahead together. This is very, very important. It's not to based on the only exchange some of the food, exchange some products, exchange some of the resource, not only based on this, the very, very simple the strategy. We need to the complex the cooperation. Is based on about the critical the different multiples industries, the products, and we want to help the BRI countries establish very strong different industries. Is industries like portfolio and different the special for local countries. We need encourage them to go ahead, go fast. I think the other countries can be excellent. The growing faster, as I think at the same time to can help Chinese the market go ahead in the future and have a good way and have a great future. That's all. Yeah. Yes. Do you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah, we have
yes.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Choi. We have a question for
Yes.
Dr. Avena.
Yes.
The recent influx of hundreds of thousands of Chinese in the form of POGO employees, and the recent announcement by the Philippine Retirement Authority that it has granted something like 35,000 retirement visas to Chinese retirees who are as young as 35 years of age, has created some negative impact among the Philippine public towards BRI. What do you think would be a good solution, Dr. Avena?
Thank you. Thank you, Sir Jeffrey. Sir, I think this this report about China is softly invading us stems from the negative image brought about by the POGOs, and this negative implications of brought about by the POGOs is actually related to the illegal activities that they have been doing. But what people don't understand, sir, is that POGOs have nothing to do with the Chinese government. So somewhere along the way, there's a misunderstanding because the Chinese government itself has been cracking down on POGOs. It's just that our policy in the Philippines is to allow gambling, so that's why POGOs are here. And so I think because of their numbers, sir, it's really It's really astonishing a lot of people. But should we really prohibit the Chinese from retiring here? Um, I don't think so, sir. Because this 35 years old, this age for retirees is not exclusive to Chinese nationals. In fact, some say it was made to cater to Korean retirees. So the Chinese eventually just they just capitalize on this, and it is legal. It is illegal under our law. Now, why does it look bad? I would attribute that to Pogo and also again to the security issues created by disputes in the West Philippine Sea. If the management of the South China Sea or West Philippine Sea issue is not proper, let's say there are some actions that's happening over there, it will spill over, it will spill over here and create all these negative perceptions. So what can the PRA do? I think right now, sir, I believe they suspended it. But I think if they're doubtful about 35 years of age, they can increase it to maybe 40, 45, 50 if they want to limit the number. But I think the PRA, sir, they came up with this because they want to attract retirees. It's for the economy. They want to have revenues. So, and if they really think that, because as to the rest, these retirees, sir, there are no reports yet that they are into illegal activities. So this means that there is already a default perception as to what they are doing. And this is again because of POGOs. So if these retirees are doing something illegal in the Philippines, the government should intensify their monitoring, their monitoring capabilities and their intelligence gathering as to whether these Chinese are legit or not. What are they here for? But so I think these are the things that must be done. So so a lot of sensation has already been caused, sir. But I would advise the public to also look into the details, and of course for both governments to properly handle disputes.
Okay, we have another question for you, Dr. Ravena. How do you think China can portray itself better to counter Western media's portrayals of its intentions? What do you think of the way Chinese overtures and reactions are portrayed as wolf warrior diplomacy?
Yeah. Uh, right, sir. Thank you. So again, I would reiterate that there has to be a proper handling of the disputes in the West Philippine Sea. For example, sir, a way forward would be the two countries agreeing on a bilateral mechanism for marine environment, let's say in Scarborough. This is what the Philippine public want to see. And maybe on the part of the Chinese government to, as in reference to that wolf warrior diplomacy, maybe to not talk so tough, um, because for smaller countries like the Philippines, when China talks tough, it creates it intimidates smaller countries. But I know China does it because it also has its own domestic audience. So this is where China has to, I guess, strike a balance. The posture that it has to create for its domestic audience and the messaging that it has to communicate with the external audience, with the international community. So it's a delicate balancing act, I guess, sir, that they have to do. And the third, sir, I guess, a good PR strategy here in the Philippines. Um, they have to publicize, really. They have to publicize what they do, the projects. Um, I don't know if Chinese embassy has a Twitter account. Maybe they should. They already have a Facebook page, but maybe they should have a Twitter account as well. Um, so the public really needs to know what the Chinese government is doing, and again, sir, the proper handling of disputes.
Okay. Mr. Choi, Dr. Choi, another question for Dr. Ravena. With the intensification of the Cold War between the US the Western countries vis-a-vis China, what do you think would be its effects on the BRI in the Southeast Asia and especially in the Philippines?
Well, sir, actually, even before, right, sir, even before COVID-19, we're already seeing the campaign of the U.S. against especially against Chinese companies like Huawei. So they are discouraging uh, third countries, especially allies, to not cooperate with Chinese companies. So that's one way of looking at it, sir. So we can see this campaign by the U.S. and its allies to discourage third countries from cooperating with China. While China, for its part, is basically pushing third-party countries to continue to cooperate with them. And the difference, those are, I guess, right now, because China is able to offer a lot of um, economic goods. For example, vis-a-vis the United States. Some analysts have said that the Quad, the US, the Indo-Pacific, has more emphasis on security rather than economy. So this is what some analysts are saying. So at the end of the day, it boils down, sir, to who can move faster and which country can offer more practical gains to third countries. So I think these are the things, sir, that matter. Yes, in fact, I would say, the reason why the third telco, in spite of China's unpopularity in the Philippines, the third telco and the Safe Philippines, in spite of national security issues associated with them, they were able to push through. It's because of the needs of the Philippines as a developing country. These are the immediate needs of a developing country, and we badly need to improve our infrastructure. I think that's why these Chinese companies were able uh, to to succeed. So it's not just a matter of national security. It's also in a sense, practicality. Yeah.
Okay.
And so far, sir, I think the Duterte government is striking a balance, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ravena. For the information of everyone, the Chinese Embassy has just posted in our chat room the Twitter and Facebook accounts of the Chinese Embassy here in the Philippines. So thank you very much, Dr. Ravena. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you, sir.
Choi. And now we would like to end today's forum by asking Apcu Treasurer General Fernando Pache to give the closing remarks.
他怎么要结束了？
结束也行，反正先看着。
General Pache.
Yes, Mr. President. Good evening, everyone. I say good morning, everyone. The last couple of hours, we just listened to two eloquent speakers who came from prestigious institutions and are both experts of the issues discussed this morning. Dr. Wang Win and Dr. Aaron J. Rabina enlightened us all about the conception, present, and future, and the opportunities and challenges of the Belt and Road initiatives in Southeast Asia and in the Philippines, respectively. Their inputs on these issues were not only very informative, but interesting as well. And we are really grateful for this opportunity to have listened and learned from them. As such, we sincerely convey our heartfelt gratitude to both of them for sharing their knowledge, and the time with us. Likewise, the Association for Philippines and China Understanding, headed by our chairman, Attorney Raul Lambino, and President Jeffrey Nang, and all its members, would like to convey our sincere thanks to all of you for joining and supporting this forum. We shall continue to share with you interesting and relevant topics that will be delivered by wide spectrum of competent speakers. And again, we shall look forward to your indispensable participation in our forthcoming fora. Thank you. Have a pleasant day, and may God bless us all.
Thank you, General Pache. We would like to invite everyone to our 6th Apcu Zoom Forum on December 3, Thursday at 3 p.m. We have invited Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel, President of PDP Laban Party, who will talk about Philippine-China relations today and the tie-ups of the ruling PDP Laban Party and the Communist Party of China. So thank you everyone for coming to join our forum this morning. Have a good day ahead. Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you. Sa lahat.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Hi, Ding. Basta.
Hi, thank you. Vice.
Oh. Hi, Dr. Jen. Diba? Oh.
Thank you,
Bye.
sir. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye po.